What's up, everyone? Good afternoon, morning, or evening, whatever time you may be watching. I'm Joe the Film Bro. So sorry I've been away for a while. Well, with the holidays and everything, I've been busy with all that. But I'm here now and ready to talk about Wonder Woman 1984. So in this movie, Gal Gadot is back as Diana Prince slash Wonder Woman, and as the title suggests, she's living in the year 1984 in the DC area doing her superhero thing. And as Diana Prince, she has a job with the Smithsonian working with artifacts and all that, and they come across this one particular artifact, a stone that has wishing powers. And our main villain of this movie, Max Lord, played by Pedro Pascal, gets his hands on it and plans to use it to, well, for lack of a better phrase, take over the world. And also Diana meets up with one of her co-workers named Barbara Minerva, played by Kristen Wiig, who later in this movie becomes Cheetah, our secondary villain. Not only that, but as we've all seen in the trailers, Chris Pine as Steve Trevor is back. He's back. And he's brought back in a way that's just so strange. But you don't really think about it because it's just Chris Pine, but that doesn't change the fact that it's still freaking weird how he's brought back. So I was really looking forward to seeing this because I love the first Wonder Woman so much. I gave it a rewatch recently to prepare to watch this. And you know what? The first movie, it still holds up. To give my brief thoughts, I think it's a really strong and well-told story with a very generic climax. I know that's like the general consensus of the movie, but I agree with that. And with this one, God, where to even begin with this movie? Let's talk about what I liked first. Let's talk about what I thought was done really well. Gal Gadot, once again, is so perfect as Diana Prince slash Wonder Woman. She's just so perfect. Now, whenever I imagine this character in live action form, like this is what I imagine. She's so good in this role. She's perfect. She's still that very emotional and inspirational and hopeful person that we all loved from the first movie. And also her chemistry with Chris Pine is still just as good here as it was in the first movie. Their relationship is just so believable and genuine. Any scenes with them were the best parts of this movie. And also for a 2.5 hour long runtime, this movie did keep my attention. The action scenes, while nothing mind-blowing, are still really fun and enjoyable to watch. And the climax especially I think is fun to watch at first when it's Wonder Woman and Cheetah fighting each other. That was really cool to see. Also, I feel like this should just be a given, but Hans Zimmer's music is just so amazing. The man just creates perfect score after perfect score, and the music he makes, especially in the emotional moments of this movie, are just absolutely perfect. Like this one scene in particular between Diana and Steve Trevor that I already thought was pretty emotional on its own, but Hans Zimmer just comes in, he does his thing, and he just makes the scene just a little bit better. And also the performances all around were pretty solid. Like Pedro Pascal, I can't fault him for being over the top here because it just seems like he's having a lot of fun playing a really campy comic book villain. And Kristen Wiig is good as Barbara. Like the way they write her character seems very appropriate to how Kristen Wiig would play her. But that also comes with its faults, and I'll get to that. I also like how this movie stays consistent with how it views its heroes. You know the saying, Marvel is about humans becoming gods and DC is about gods becoming humans? Like with Marvel, like with Captain America and Iron Man and Spider-Man, it's about like those people who start out normal and then are given these amazing abilities to do the great things with. Spider-Man's famous phrase, great power, great responsibility, yada, yada, yada. But with DC, a lot of these heroes start out with their abilities and they have to learn what it means to be human with these powers, with this responsibility. The first Wonder Woman did that very well, and this one, I can't say it's done as well as the first one, but it's consistent with it. One thing I do respect this movie for is that it continues to develop Diana Prince's character, but sadly all this good is brought down by a very generic and by-the-numbers story. Like I said, this movie is 2.5 hours long, so much longer than it needs to be. I said earlier, this movie did keep my attention, but it didn't engage me. The first Wonder Woman had an almost 2.5 hour runtime, but that story was engaging because the characters were engaging, because Diana was so determined to find and destroy Ares, and that made us want to follow this story. It engaged me. This one, I can't say that I was bored, but I wasn't really into it. And a lot of that stems from a very confused and mixed message and political commentary that doesn't really know where it wants to stick. With the way the story is written and some of its dialogue and even some of the extras who are just so ridiculous and over the top, this feels like a DC movie from the 90s. Now, I can't say it gets as silly as Joel Schumacher's Batman movies, but I can't help but feel it got dangerously close to that sometimes. But also with this movie's message, its morals, things just seem to wrap up way too nicely at the end. Now here's what I mean. Remember at the end of the first Wonder Woman, after Wonder Woman defeats Ares? On the one hand, you feel like, yes, a great evil has been defeated. But also on the other hand, you feel like it didn't completely fix everything. Wonder Woman did stop someone who was influencing the evil in the world, but the evil in the world was still there even when Ares was gone. And that's what makes the first Wonder Woman work so well for me. Like, the first Wonder Woman had a message, a moral, that has been done before, not just in comic book movies, but movies in general. But the way it delivered it, it felt like it wanted to tell its audience something. It wanted to teach us something. And that's what made it stick with me. And that's why I still love the first movie so much. But with this one, Wonder Woman makes her big superhero speech to the villain like she did with Ares in the first one, but one can make the argument that Max Lord had a bigger influence over the world than Ares did. And the way that she resolves it, it wraps up way too nicely, and it doesn't feel real. Look, I'm not asking for a comic book movie to be completely realistic, but when it comes to your message, the moral that you're teaching your audience, you need to be realistic. If you're going to go out of your way to teach your audience something, you need to be grounded. You need to show that you can be real and mature, that you're on their level with this kind of thing. But like I said, this movie just goes by the numbers, and sadly, the moral falls into that by the numbers effect. And also, the end of this movie tries to make us sympathetic with our villain, and I just didn't feel it after everything he did. I'll give the first one this. Even though Ares did become a very generic villain in that third act, the movie didn't ask us to sympathize with him at all. That's because the first movie knew Ares, the god of war, couldn't be sympathized with. And like I said, Lord arguably had more of an influence over the world in this one, and they try to make us sympathetic with them, and it doesn't work. Also, I'm adding nothing new to this conversation because a lot of people have already brought it up, but the way they portray Barbara Minerva / Cheetah, at least in the beginning, as the awkward nerd, like this has only worked once in a comic book movie before, that being with Selina Kyle in Batman Returns. But then other movies try to do this same kind of villain over and over again. Like with the Mandarin in Iron Man 3, or Edward Nygma / Riddler in Batman Forever, Max Dillon / Electro in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I'm sick of this kind of villain type. Look, I know this is like a thing with comic book villains, like traditional comic book villains who start out weak and awkward, but then rise to reclaim their power. But like I said, this kind of villain only worked one time, and there's nothing new that you can do with it now. And the thing is, when it comes to Cheetah in this movie, it almost works. On paper, it sounds like this could really work. But sadly, her character gets wrapped up in the ridiculousness of this whole movie. With how this movie wraps up, I don't know how they're going to involve Cheetah in future movies, if they were ever going to. But from what I understand, Cheetah is like Wonder Woman's arch nemesis. You think that she would have been a bigger deal and not a secondary villain compared to Max Lord, who honestly feels a lot more like a Lex Luthor character than the actual Lex Luthor character. On the whole, I don't hate this movie, but I don't like it either. I'm very, very split on it. I'm very 50-50. I don't know, DC was looking up. I mean, we had the first Wonder Woman, we had Aquaman, we had Shazam, but as we all know, the DCEU is just in a mess right now. So we'll see where they go from here. Maybe if they do a third Wonder Woman movie, they can get a different director on, because Patty Jenkins was great with the first movie, but I think now they need someone else to take the lead with this character. Obviously, keep Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. Obviously, she's perfect. But maybe a different team behind the camera wouldn't hurt. Alright guys, so Wonder Woman 1984. Did you see it? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Are you middle of the road about it? How do you think it compares to the first movie? Be sure to leave all thoughts, questions, and hate mail in the comments section. Smash that like button to show your fellow film bros some love. And if you like the content that I put out there, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.